Hello, and welcome to another installment of Inside St. Peter's, our series of short videos in which we hope to introduce you or to remind you of the many important ministries going on here in the church. And one of our most beloved and well-known ministries is our Guatemala Medical Mission. And today I'm happy to be joined by Marianne Black, who's instrumental in that effort. And Marianne's going to talk to us today about the changes that the Guatemala Medical Mission has been through and what's our hope for the future. So Marianne, welcome.
Thank you.
And could you just give us a little brief history of the medical mission?
Well, I was many moons ago invited by another church to participate in a medical mission. I'm in Guatemala. I went with them. I came back energized and talked to our priest at the time, Terry Daly, and she said, "Of course we can do that. Of course you can do that." So she put it directly back in my lap to organize, and put together. So that's how it launched, 2008. And there are years that it's larger groups, years that it's smaller groups, years where the focus has been a little bit different, and of course in the last couple of years it has evolved again with the pandemic.
Right. So talk about that. Since you haven't been able to physically
Right.
go to Guatemala, what has been the nature of the mission now?
So Guatemala is very much a country of people who have and have not. You have a very wealthy class and a very large, very poor class of people that are very rural. And our outreach has been to these rural communities. And when I say rural and poor, the bathrooms, the water, all of the things that you think about when you think about a third world country. Is what we would normally deal with. And of course when the pandemic came along, basically those people are left without, by and large, the things that support them economically to begin with. For example, they depend heavily on community markets. In the larger communities, there's a day of the week or 2 days of a week each week that would be market day. And so everyone would take their chickens or their cilantro or whatever it is that they can sell or have to market and both stock up for themselves and provide for their families by the sale of their goods. The markets have closed down in the pandemic. And so by and large there are very widespread amongst the communities people who are suffering from malnutrition, economic deprivation of you name it, because they, so much of the country has been in lockdown, but lockdown for a third world country is significantly different and more devastating than it is for us. So we have always had a relationship from the beginning with a couple of people down in Guatemala. One is Dr. Roberto Ramas, who is both an Episcopal priest and a physician. He organizes our time down there, decides where we're going to go, what we're going to do, and so forth, provides for medications and so forth. So our connection to him is still there. He has other connections that exist that we've been part of. He ministers in a women's prison and we've been in there. He runs a feeding program for elderly people in Quetzaltenango out of the church. He runs a clinic out of the back of his parsonage. So what we have shifted to is trying to financially support his ongoing efforts to stay connected to those communities and those needs. We have been trying to send money periodically so that he can buy the meds, so that he can buy the foods, so that he can continue to go into the women's prison and so forth, and do the work that can be done in the midst of the pandemic.
That's great. I'm glad that that our efforts can still be fruitful,
It's-
even if it's not in the same traditional way.
Exactly.
Yeah. So how can we, St. Peter's, the members here, contribute? How can they continue to help? And what are your hopes for the future?
So I think, and Dr. Armas and the people that we work with in Guatemala, they would continue to say that the number one thing that we can do is to pray for them and to not forget them, because I think in many ways they feel forgotten. The groups can't come in to work with them. The vaccines have not reached the rural communities to a large extent. So, to pray for them, to remember them, to do what you can to support us in financially supporting them. We have established here at St. Peter's a 501c3, the Guatemala Episcopal Medical Mission, that St. Peter's sort of acts as the steward of that nonprofit, so that we can continue to funnel financial support in lieu of actual physical support. Our hope is that the pandemic will recede and the vaccines will become more prevalent, and that at some point we will be able to resume the work that we have done down there, even if it's in a small way, small groups that might just go, one day into the women's prison, that sort of thing, smaller groups where there's not as much risk and logistics involved. So, we may end up starting small as we go back, but the plan is eventually to go back.
Yes, we all hope and pray.
We do too.
Pray for that, and we do pray for aspects of the Guatemala Medical Mission every Sunday. So listen for those as we go forward. All right, we end every interview with one of James Lipton's 10 questions. And today, Marianne, I will ask you, what sound or noise do you love?
So Peggy threw this question on me just as I was walking in to do this interview. And given that my mind has been in Guatemala and our work there, I was thinking today about how every morning in Guatemala you wake up to the sound of roosters crowing. It's just, it's a reminder of where you are, that you're close to these people, you're close to the way that they live and live with the earth, and that rooster crowing, there's just something about it that just names it for me, and I like it.
That's great. Thank you so much,
Thank
Marianne,
you.
for your
Thank
time. And Dr. Armas will be here at St. Peter's on Sunday, November the 7th. He and Greg will co-celebrate the 11 o'clock service, and you're invited to come or join in online. Until then, be on the lookout for the next installment of Inside St. Peter's.